بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. There are no slides today. This is a cover lesson. I believe we're on Hadith number 19 from Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, his book, the 40 Hadith. So Hadith number 19, عن أبي العباس عبد الله بن عباس رضي الله عنهما, on the authority of Abu al-Abbas, Abdullah bin al-Abbas. He said, قال كنت خلف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوما فقال يا غلام إني أعلمك كلمات. One day I was riding behind the messenger, behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, "O young man, I will teach you some words. احفظ الله يحفظك احفظ الله تجده تجاهك إذا سألت فاسأل الله وإذا استعنت فاستعن بالله واعلم أن الأمة لو اجتمعت على أن ينفعوك بشيء لم ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله لك وإن اجتمعوا على أن يضروك بشيء لم يضروك إلا بشيء قد كتب الله عليك رفعت الأقلام وجفت الصحف." رواه الترمذي. He said that the Prophet ﷺ said, "O young man, I will teach you some words. احفظ الله يحفظك, preserve Allah and Allah will preserve you. احفظ الله تجده تجاهك, preserve Allah and you will find Allah in front of you. If you ask from anyone, ask from Allah, and if you seek help from anyone, then seek help from Allah. And know that if the entire nation came together to benefit you with something, they would not be able to benefit you with except something that has already been written for you by Allah. And likewise, if they gathered together to harm you by something, they would not be able to harm you except by something already decreed by Allah. رُفِعَتِ الْأَقْلَامِ, the pens have been lifted. وَجَفَّتِ الصُّحُفِ, and the pages have dried. In another narration of the same hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, preserve Allah and Allah will preserve you. Preserve Allah and Allah, you will find Allah in front of you. Get to know Him in times of ease and He will know you in times of difficulty. And then again, if you ask from anyone, ask from Allah, and if you seek help from anyone, seek help from Allah. And know that in sabr, وَعَلَمْ أَنَّ فِي الصَّبْرِ عَلَى مَا تَكْرَهُ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا, know that in patience upon what you dislike is great good. And then وَأَنَّ النَّصْرَ مَعَ الصَّبْرِ, and know that victory comes with sabr. وَأَنَّ الْفَرَجَ مَعَ الْكَرْبِ, and relief comes with the hardship. وَأَنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, and with every difficulty comes ease. So this hadith, there are several different narrations going back to Ibn Abbas, but all of them are roughly the same in terms of their meaning. This is one of the most important hadith that Imam Nawawi gathered in his book, and it's befitting for every Muslim to in fact memorize this hadith and to learn the meanings contained within this hadith. The great scholar Ibn al-Jawzi, he said about this hadith, تَدَبَّرْتُ هَذَا الْحَدِيثَ فَأَدْهَشَنِي وَكِدْتُ أَطِيشُ. He said, I meditated on this hadith. I thought deeply about this hadith. فَأَدْهَشَنِي, so it astonished me. It took my breath away. وَكِدْتُ أَطِيشُ, and it made me lightheaded. When I started thinking and contemplating about the meanings of this hadith, I felt like I was going to faint. فَوَا أَسَفَ مِنَ الْجَهْلِ بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ وَقِلَّةِ التَّفَهُّمِ لِمَعْنَاهِ. So woe to the one who is ignorant of this hadith and has little understanding of its meanings. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was riding on either a camel or a donkey, some riding animal, and he had Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas at this time was a youngster, maybe 8, 9, 10 years old. He was riding behind him, and the Prophet ﷺ took this opportunity to teach Ibn Abbas. So the Prophet ﷺ recognized Ibn Abbas that he has already the makings of a scholar. that he's intelligent, he has a good memory. He knew that this is someone who, if he plants the seeds, the Muslims will benefit from what will grow in its place. So he took the time while he's riding in the car, and likewise this is a lesson for us when we are, with our children in the car, on the plane, wherever it may be. Take those times to teach our children. We should use these opportunities as teaching moments to teach our children, teach whoever is with us. That teaching is not just reserved for the masjid, or just the Saturday class, or the Sunday school, or whatever it may be, but always, as the Prophet ﷺ showed us, any time, any opportunity can be used to teach our youngsters or other people about Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ya ghulam, and another narration, Ya ghalayim, O young man, Inni u'allimuka kalimatin, I will teach you some words. Another narration, Ala u'allimuka kalimatin yanfa'aka Allahu bihin, shall I not teach you some words that Allah will benefit you by? So Ibn Abbas said, Bala ya Rasulullah, of course. So then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ihfadillaha yahfadik, preserve Allah and Allah will preserve you. What does this mean? Can any of us preserve Allah? The word hifz in Arabic, normally it's translated as preserve, but it has meanings of protect, to safeguard, preserve, and so forth. Can anyone do any of these things with Allah? Can anyone protect Allah, safeguard Allah, and so on? No. So what is the meaning of ihfadillah? Remember Allah?
Protect His rights, as in the rights that Allah has upon you. Make sure you safeguard and look after them.
Okay.
Preserve His boundaries.
Protect His boundaries. Okay. Anyone else? I should say, I always keep trying to, I keep forgetting to say this for the sisters because I'm not looking there. If you raise your hands, I'm not going to see it. So you need to move it so I can catch it from the corner of my eye. So if the sisters have a question, if you want to answer a question, just there needs to be some movement so that I can, so I know that someone is raising their hand. Anyone else? Okay, it says, as the brothers have said, the meaning here is obviously not to protect Allah or preserve Allah, but rather to protect His ihfad hudud Allah, the boundaries of Allah or the limits that Allah has set. Ihfad awamirillah, preserve and safeguard the commands of Allah, the prohibitions of Allah. So whatever Allah has commanded us to do, we fulfill those commands. Whatever Allah has prohibited us from, had prevented from us, we stay away from those things. So the meaning of ihfadillah means to safeguard the rules and the obligations and the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for the one who does this, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, preserve Allah, ihfadillah, yahfadka, then Allah will preserve you. What is the meaning of Allah will preserve you? We've covered the first bit. Now if you ihfadillah, you preserve the boundaries set by Allah, the rules of Allah. Then what is the meaning of yahfadka? Allah will preserve you. Protect you. Can you be more specific? Protect you from harm. Okay, anyone else?
Protect you from the punishment of the hereafter and guide you in this world.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, the statement is general. Yahfadka, who preserve you. Preserving what? Preserve you in everything. So for the one who safeguards the limits of Allah, the religion of Allah, Allah will preserve him in his body, in his wealth, in his family, in his children, in his grandchildren, in his grandchildren's children, in his property and so forth, and everything related to that. So for the one who preserves Allah's commands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will preserve him and everything that matters to him. One of the ulama, Al-Qadi Abu Tayyib, Tahir ibn Abdullah rahimahullah, he lived to be an old man. He lived until he crossed the age of 100. He was over 100 years old. But even though he was such an old man, or he reached such an old age, he was still fit and healthy and energetic, and he was sound in his mind. So one time he was on a ship, and you know when the ship comes close to the dock, when it's nearing the dock, they put the piece of wood, the gangplank, they put that out from the ship onto the land, so that people walk on the gangplank and they get onto the shore. So Abu Tayyib, Al-Qadi Abu Tayyib, he didn't wait for the gangplank. As soon as it got close to the shore, he just jumped off the boat onto the land. So the people who saw this, they started criticizing him. That, look at your age, you're over 100 years old. You're not a young man anymore. You can't do things like this. You can't take risks like this. So Al-Qadi Abu Tayyib, he said, هذه جوارح, these are limbs, حفظناها عن المعاصي في الصغر, فحفظه الله علينا في الكبر. We guarded these limbs from sin when we were young, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved them for us when we are in old age. We protected and preserved, we made hifz of these limbs from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so in return Allah has protected them for us, so we can still enjoy them in old age. But more than preserving the person in his wealth or in his body, the most important thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserves the person's religion. That the one who preserves Allah's commands, Allah protects his religion and keeps him firm on his religion. Once the people were mentioning the Ahlul Ma'asi, the people who commit sins, the people who stay up at night, wasting their time talking about this dunya, wasting their time doing sinful things and so on. So these people were mentioned in the presence of Al-Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah. So Al-Hasan, he said, when they were discussing these people, he said, Hanu alayhi fa'asawhu. These people were insignificant to Allah, so Allah let them disobey Him. Because they meant nothing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah has let them go and progress in their sins and keep on committing sins. وَلَوْ عَزُّوا عَلَيْهِ لَعَصَمَهُمْ. And if they were precious to Allah, if they were special in the sight of Allah, then Allah would have protected them from falling into these sins. So there's a lesson in this for the Muslims who are falling into the same sins, the same bad habits, the same old addictions, that they should be afraid of Allah, that perhaps they have now become small and insignificant in the sight of Allah, and this is why Allah has allowed them to go off the straight path. The one who finds that he's committing the same sins or she's committing the same sins again and again and again, falling easily into sin, then this is a sign that perhaps this person is no longer precious to Allah, no longer special with Allah, and now sin has become easier than obedience of Allah. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, احفظ الله يحفظك. Preserve Allah and Allah will preserve you. احفظ الله يجده أمامك. If you preserve Allah, you will find Allah in front of you. And then the other narration, تجده تجاهك. Again, Allah will be in front of you. What does this mean? All of us are on a journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether we are good people or bad, whether we are Muslim or non-Muslim, everyone is returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that sense, Allah is in front of all of us. Allah is waiting in front of all of us because we will all go back one day and meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He is there in front of us. But the meaning here is not that all of us will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but that Allah is in front of us, meaning Allah is guiding us. For the one who preserves the commands of Allah, Allah will be in front of him, guiding him and showing him the way. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ يَهْدِي قَلْبَهُ. Whoever believes in Allah and has iman in Allah, then Allah will guide him. Once Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when he was on his deathbed, his students, they came to him and they said, who do you advise us to study with once you are gone? When you have left this earth now, who do we stay with? Who will we take the fiqh from? Who will we learn the hadith from? So Imam Ahmad, he mentioned one scholar by the name of Abdul Wahhab ibn Abdul Hakam. So they said, قِيلْ إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ لَهُ اتِّسَاعٌ فِي الْعِلْمِ. They said, he doesn't have that much knowledge. He's not like you. He doesn't have so much knowledge gathered up. Because Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, he used to say, حَفِظْتُ أَلْف hadith. I have memorized 1,000 hadith, meaning 1 million hadith. He said, I have memorized 1 million hadith. Each one of those hadith, I know it the way you know Al-Fatiha. The way you recite Al-Fatiha with your eyes closed, I can recite those million hadith with my eyes closed. So they said, this man, he doesn't have the same knowledge as you. He's not at the same level as you. So Imam Ahmad, he rebuked his students. And he said, إِنَّهُ رَجُلٌ صَالِحٌ مِثْلُهُ يُوَفَّقُ لِإِصَابَةِ الْحَقِّ. He is a righteous man. He is a righteous man. One like that will be guided to the truth. Someone like him, even if he doesn't know the masail, he doesn't know the fiqh, Allah will guide him to come to the right answer. Because he is righteous. So for the one who safeguards the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who his faith is more important than anything else, Even if he doesn't know, he hasn't studied, doesn't come to the fiqh class. He comes on Wednesdays, he doesn't come on Saturdays. Now I know. Now I know who comes on Wednesdays and who's not there on Saturday. So he doesn't know all the fiqh, the masail. But if he is sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or she is sincere, they have pure white hearts, Allah will guide them to the truth. They will try to see what is the right thing to do, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show them the way. Show them this is the right thing to do. This is the sinful thing to do. Then the Prophet ﷺ said in the other narration, تَعَرَّفْ إِلَيْهِ فِي الرَّخَاءِ يَعْرِفْكَ فِي الشِّدَّةِ. Get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in times of ease, and Allah will know you in times of hardship. Imagine if you had two relatives. Some of us, maybe we don't have to imagine. Maybe this is the case. So there's one relative, for example, who never calls us. Maybe he's a cousin or a niece or a nephew, whatever it may be. But this person, they never call, they never email, they never stay in contact until they need some money or they need some help. Then all of a sudden you get the call saying, oh, please, so-and-so, how are you? How are your parents? How is so-and-so? Listen, I'm really having a hard time. Can you loan me some money? Etc., etc. And so we help them because they are our relatives. They have a right on us. So we go and we help them because they are in need. But imagine there was another relative who used to keep on staying in contact with you, who used to keep on contacting you, checking on you, always keeping that connection, that relationship with you. When that person was in trouble or is in trouble, and they say, hey, please, can you help me? You will rush to help them. You will love to help them because they have kept that relationship strong. So likewise with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who comes to Allah only when he's in need, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may answer his dua. But the one who's always asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always making dua, always keeping his relationship or her relationship strong with Allah, Allah loves to answer the dua of that person. Allah loves to answer the dua of that person. Because this person makes dua when times are good or when times are bad. When times are easy, when times are hard. Always this person is remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for this reason the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ صَرَّهُ أَنْ يَسْتَجِيبَ اللَّهُ لَهُ عِنْدَ الشَّدَائِدِ وَالْكَرْبِ فَلْيُكْثِرِ الدُّعَاءَ فِي الرَّخَاءِ. Whoever is pleased that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers and responds to him in times of shada'id, when the hardships come, wal-karb, and the calamities, فَلْيُكْثِرْ, then increase in making dua in times of ease. So when times are ease, when we are in times of ease, meaning we're healthy, we're not in the hospital, we have wealth, we have a job, we're not unemployed. When things are going well for us, we're not in the middle of calamity and trouble, this is the time to increase in worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're not in the hospital, this is the time to make qiyam al-layl. If you're not in debt, you're not struggling for a job, this is the time to spend your nights reading the Quran, memorizing the Quran, studying the Quran. When times are going well, going easy, meaning you don't have calamity. Doesn't mean you're a millionaire. Doesn't mean only when you're a millionaire you make dua. No. When you are not struggling in the hospital, crippled with a disease, then you have good health, then you should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by increasing and doing more good deeds, especially making dua. So the one who increases in making dua in times of ease, then they will find, because they have this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this relationship, this strong relationship, Allah will love to respond to that person's dua. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَإِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهَ وَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. And if you ask anyone, then ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you seek help from anyone, then seek help only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the same thing that Allah has taught us, the same dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us to say in every rak'ah of every prayer. Because in every rak'ah we say what? إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Only you, Allah, do we worship. And only you do we ask for help in worshipping you. You are the only one we ask for assistance and help, and helping us to worship you. And this is why the scholars, they said that all of the Quran, all of the meanings of the Quran can be summarized in Al-Fatiha. And all of the meanings of Al-Fatiha can be summarized in one verse. Meaning the entire message of Islam is only one thing. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. We only worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We only ask Allah for our needs. This is pure tawheed. This is the tawheed, the message, the religion of all the prophets, that we only ask Allah for assistance. And not only should we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our needs, but the wise one, the wise Muslim, is the one who learns the specific du'as that the Prophet ﷺ taught us to make for specific things or for specific situations. Not just to make general du'a, but there are certain special du'as that are all recorded in the books of Hadith. There's no secret. It's not like khalas, Google. You can find it in 1 second now. Nothing is hidden. Everything is available. There are specific du'as that the Prophet ﷺ taught us to make, that the person who makes these du'as, immediately Allah will answer him. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ما أصاب أحدا قط هم ولا حزن فقال اللهم إني عبدك ابن عبدك ابن أمتك. There is no one who is afflicted by by worry, ولا حزن, or sadness, except that he or she says, O Allah, I am your slave, the son of your male slave, the son of your female slave. ناصيتي بيدك, my forelock is in your hands, and so on to the end of the dua. This dua is found in the books of Hadith. No one makes this dua except the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِلَّا أَذْهَبَ اللَّهُ هَمَّهُ وَحُزُنَهُ وَأَبْدَلَهُ فَرْحًا. Except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace his worry and anxiety and replace his sadness with happiness. No one who has worry or anxiety or sadness, and who here isn't afflicted with one of these things. No one is afflicted with any of these except that he makes this dua, and Allah will remove the sadness and the worry, and not only that, replace it with happiness. So when the Sahaba that heard this, they said, Ya Rasulullah, أَلَا نَتَعَلَّمُهَا? Shouldn't we all learn this dua? So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, بَلَا يَنْبَغِي لِمَنْ سَمِعَهَا أَنْ يَتَعَلَّمَهَا. The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, of course. It is befitting that everyone who hears about this dua learns this dua. It is befitting and appropriate that everyone who hears it should learn it, memorize it, and use it. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, again in the second narration, قَدْ جَفَّ الْقَلَمُ بِمَا هُوَ كَائِن, that the pen has dried with what will occur. And in another narration, رُفِعَتِ الْأَقْلَامُ وَجَفَّتِ الصُّحُفُ, that the pens have been lifted and the pages have dried. And this is in reference to the both mentioned in the Quran and in the other hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the first thing that Allah created was the pen. One of the first things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created was the pen. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the pen, write, uktub. So the pen, it said, and what should I write, my Lord? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, uktub maqadira kulli shay'in hatta taqum as-sa'a. Write down everything that will occur, every decree, until the day of judgment. Someone could say, well, if everything is written down, and if everything is already preordained, then what is the point of making dua? If everything is already preordained, for example, that if I go for an interview, I might get this job, or if it's been decreed, if I get this job, or it's decreed that I don't get this job, either way, what the decree of Allah is going to occur. So what's the point of making dua? Or if I if I have a sickness, whether I take the medicine or I don't take the medicine, if Allah wants me to be cured, I'll be cured. If He doesn't want to be cured, khalas, nothing will remove the sickness. So why should I make dua? For the one who says this, we say, khalas, fine. The next time you have your dinner in front of you, you have that plate of food in front of you, we say, don't eat. If Allah has decreed for you to be hungry, you'll be hungry. And if Allah has decreed for you to be full, and for your belly to be full, then you'll be full. So don't touch the food. So the person will say, then how will I remove the hunger if I don't eat the food? I have to pick up the food, lift my hand, raise my hand, and put the food in my mouth before the hunger will go. And so we say, likewise, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you want this sickness or this calamity to go, you have to raise your hands and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah has made this universe based on cause and effect. The universe is based on cause and effect, not just the natural world, but the spiritual world as well. So if we want the effect, then we have to bring the cause. You will not get the effect without the cause. And so, likewise, dua is one of the strongest causes, one of the strongest ways to cause an effect, to have an effect. So just like, for example, when it's raining, we don't go out and say, khalas, if it's Allah's decree for me to get wet, I'll get wet. If I'm meant to be dry, I'll be dry. No. We take an umbrella, we wear a jacket to push off the rain, to keep the rain away from us. And so likewise, we make dua to push off the calamities that may be headed our way. So it may be the case that Allah has decreed a calamity to come, and likewise Allah has decreed for us to make dua, and the dua pushes away the calamity. So no one should take the qadr of Allah, or take the fact that things are preordained as some kind of excuse to leave off action and to leave off doing good deeds. The ones who understand the qadr of Allah will increase in making dua, because they understand that the universe is based on cause and effect, and if you don't bring the cause, you will never get the effect. Is this clear? And then the Prophet ﷺ said, وَعَلَمْ أَنَّ فِي الصَّبْرِ عَلَى مَا تَكْرَهُ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. And know that in having sabr, in having endurance and patience upon what you dislike, is great reward, is great good. Someone could say, but how can there be great good? What good can there be in my mother being afflicted with cancer? Or my child being afflicted with some incurable disease? Or me losing my job? Or my house burns down? Where's the good in that? There are many benefits when it comes to calamities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't do anything lahwan, without any wisdom. So one of the benefits of calamities, one of the benefits of these hardships that we go through, is that they remove sins. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ما يصيب المسلم من نصب ولا وصب ولا هم ولا حزن ولا أذى ولا غم حتى الشوكة يشاكها إلا كفر الله بها من خطاياه. That no Muslim is afflicted with nasab, fatigue, wala wasab, or suffering, wala ham, or worry, wala hazn, or huzn, or grief, wala adha, or harm, wala ghammin, or sadness, or depression. Hatta shawka, even the thorn that pricks him or pricks her, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes and erases the sins by it. Likewise, in another narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِلَّا كَفَّرَ اللَّهُ بِهَا سَيِّئَاتِهِ وَحُطَّتْ عَنْهُ ذُنُوبُهُ كَمَا تَحُطُّ الشَّجَرَةُ وَرَقَهَا. Except that Allah will expiate and erase by it his evil deeds, his sins. وَحُطَّتْ عَنْهُ ذُنُوبُهُ, and his sins are erased. كَمَا تَحُطُّ الشَّجَرَةُ وَرَقَهَا. Just like the tree shakes off its leaves. So just like the wind blows the leaves off the trees, these hardships come, these calamities come, and blow off the sins from the people who are afflicted. In another narration, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَا يَزَالُ الْبَلَاءُ بِالْمُؤْمِنِ وَالْمُؤْمِنَ فِي نَفْسِهِ وَوَلَدِهِ وَمَالِهِ حَتَّى يَلْقَ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى وَمَا عَلَيْهِ خَطِيَةٌ. That the bala, the calamities, keep on afflicting the male believer and the female believer in his or her body or children or wealth, until he or she meets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَا عَلَيْهِ خَطِيَةٌ, and there's no sin upon that person. They meet Allah on the Day of Judgment, and all the sins have already been expiated by the hardships, the diseases, the sicknesses that they have suffered in this world. So one of the benefits of these calamities, when they occur, is that they wipe off and take away our sins. A second benefit is that these calamities soften the heart of the believer. That when the person goes through these hardships, they should remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not doing to break them, but to break the hardness in their hearts. Because if Allah wanted to break you and destroy you, He could do it in a second. Allah doesn't need to give you cancer to destroy you. If Allah wanted to wipe you out, khalas, in 1 second. Kun, just one word and you are finished. So when Allah afflicts us with a disease, or someone that we love with a disease, it's not meant to destroy us, but it's meant to break the hardness in the heart of the believer, so that that person turns in humility then to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمَمٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ. That we afflicted the nations before you, and we took them by calamity and severe distress, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ, so that they would become humble, so that they will be humble and show humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A third benefit is that these calamities and these hardships bring the believer closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That these things raise the status of the person, so the person is getting closer and closer to Allah. And this is why some of the righteous, when they were afflicted with hardship, whether it was sickness or poverty or whatever it may be, later on they would regret or they would feel grief when these calamities then disappeared, because they regretted or they missed having that closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That before, when they were suffering hardship, suffering fear, suffering anxiety, depression, whatever it may be, when they were always making dua, always keen on making qiyam al-layl, always keen on trying to do as many good deeds, getting closer and closer to Allah, and then when that calamity is lifted, then khalas, human beings, we go back, it's human nature, then we become neglectful of Allah's rights upon us. So they would miss the days when times were hard, when they were closer to Allah. And this is why Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he said, وَجَدْنَا خَيْرَ عَيْشِنَا بِالصَّبْرِ. We found the best days of our lives. The best days of our lives were those days in which we had sabr, in which times were hard and we had to show sabr for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, عَجَبًا لِأَمِرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. Amazing is the affair of the believer. Amazing, how amazing it is. Ajab, how wondrous it is. إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُ سَرَّاءٌ شَكَرٌ. If something good befalls him, he gives thanks. He is grateful to Allah. فَكَانَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. So it's better for him. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاءٌ صَبَرٌ فَكَانَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. And if some calamity befalls him, then he is patient, and that is better for him. And then the last bit of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَعَلَمْ وَأَنَّ النَّصْرَ مَعَ الصَّبْرِ. And victory comes with sabr. وَأَنَّ الْفَرَجَ مَعَ الْكَرْبِ. And the relief comes with the hardship. So as soon as the calamity is sent, Allah has already decreed and has ready the relief to come at a certain time after it. وَأَنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. And with every difficulty comes ease. There are many, many hadith, besides the ones that we have already covered, talking about the merits and the virtue of sabr. But there is a station even higher than this. There is a station even higher than having sabr or patience with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the station of rida, that one is pleased with the decree of Allah. So if Allah decrees for one of us, وَلِعِيَاذَ بِاللَّهِ, that we have cancer or some sickness, it is obligatory on the Muslim to have patience, not to curse the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but to be patient, to say, this is Allah's decree, and I will show sabr. No matter how hard it is, I will endure it, and I will be patient until Allah lifts it. This is the obligation, this is the obligatory level on every Muslim. But the level of rida is even higher than this, where the person is happy and pleased that they've been given cancer, where they are pleased their house has burned down, they are pleased that they lost their job. Because whatever pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are pleased with that. So if the person is healthy, he says, Alhamdulillah, I'm pleased that Allah has made me healthy. If he's sick, he said, I'm pleased that Allah has made me sick. If he has wealth and he has a job, then he's pleased with what Allah has given him. If it's all taken away, he's pleased with Allah's decree. Either way, whatever pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this person is pleased with that. And this is a level that very few of the Muslims reach. Only the elite, the best of the Muslims reach this level. But one of the scholars, Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, he said there are 3 ways that a Muslim can try to develop within himself this quality and reach to this level of rida. Number 1, that a Muslim should trust in Allah. Should have their trust in Allah, that Allah does or decrees for him whatever Allah's decree is, it's for his benefit. Just like the doctor. When a person is sick or a person has an ailment and they go to the doctor, it doesn't matter how much pain the doctor prescribes, the person is willing to undergo all that pain because they trust the doctor is doing it for his benefit. So if the doctor says, stick out your arm, just stick a big needle into it, he is happy to uncover his arm and put it out. If the doctor says, I'm going to give you chemotherapy, radiotherapy, this therapy, no matter how much pain is involved, the person is happy to go through it again and again and again, no matter how much the doctor prescribes, because he trusts this doctor is doing this for my benefit. not to harm me, but to help me. And so likewise the Muslim has trust in Allah, that whatever Allah has decreed for him, it's not to harm him, but to help him. Not to break him, but to raise him. So he has trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that everything Allah decrees is being done for his benefit. And it's a shame if the Muslims have more trust in their doctors than they have trust in their Lord. Number two, a Muslim should always remember the great reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has reserved for those who are patient and have pleasure at Allah's decree. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna idham al-jazai ma'a idham al-bala," that the greatness of the reward is in proportion to the greatness or the size of the bala, of the calamity. If somebody is afflicted with a small calamity and they are patient or even pleased with this, then they'll have a small reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the one who is afflicted with a larger, harder calamity, a bigger test, then likewise the reward will also be bigger. And likewise the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ إِذَا أَحَبَّ قَوْمًا ابْتَلَاهُمْ. And if Allah loves a people, ابْتَلَاهُمْ, then He tests them. فَمَنْ رَضِيَ فَلَهُ الرِّضَى. So whoever is pleased, then Allah is pleased with him. وَمَنْ سَخِطَ فَلَهُ السَّخْطِ. And whoever is displeased and is angry at the decree of Allah, then Allah is angry with him. So the one who remembers the great reward that Allah has reserved, these hardships and calamities become easy for him or her. The last point Ibn Rajab he brings is that the Muslim should always remember. The Muslim should always remember that one of the names of Allah is Al-Jamil. Al-Jamil. And Al-Jamil, it means what? The most beautiful. And Ibn al-Qayyim, he said Allah is beautiful not just in His essence, but He's beautiful, number one, in His essence. Number two, all His names are beautiful. Number three, all His attributes are beautiful. And number four, all His actions are beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is Al-Jamil, He never does anything ugly. He never decrees anything hideous. All of the decree of Allah is beautiful, even if we can't see the beauty. Because Allah is Al-Jamil, because He is the most beautiful and He loves beauty, all of His actions have beauty. None of them are hideous. None of them are ugly. And this is similar to the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. So as we all know, the story of Yusuf, when Yusuf was sold as a slave in Egypt, and then he was, the wife of his owner, his master, tried to seduce him, and then she failed because he feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the gossip spread in the city that this noble woman, she is infatuated with her slave. So then she invited the other noble women to her house for a banquet, and then she gave each one a small knife to cut the fruit with. And then she told Yusuf, go out now in front of them. So when Yusuf went out, and they saw how beautiful he was, when they saw how beautiful he was, how handsome he was, they, instead of cutting the fruit, they cut their fingers. But when they cut their hands, they didn't feel pain, because they were so overwhelmed with the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam. Because the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam was so overwhelming, so overpowering, they didn't know they had cut their hands. It was only after they felt the blood dripping that they saw that they had cut their hands. And so likewise the believer, when he sees the beauty in Allah's decree, when he sees the beauty in Allah's actions, this removes the pain, overwhelms the pain that he may be feeling when the calamities strike. The more the believer sees the beauty in Allah's decree, the less the pain that is suffered as the person goes through these trials. Once there was a righteous woman, her name was Rabi al-Adawiyya, rahimahullah. She was such a great worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once she was walking in the street and she tripped and she fell and she broke her finger. So when she broke her finger, she got up and she started to laugh. So the people said, you just tripped up, you just broke your finger and you're going to laugh? Why are you laughing when something like this, a calamity like this has struck? So she said, أنساني لذة ربه أنساني لذة ثوابه مرارة ألمه. She said, the sweetness of His reward has made me forget the bitterness of His pain. When I think about the great reward, the sweet reward that waits for me, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves me, that He has given me this calamity, it removes the pain that I'm feeling from this hardship. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in sabr and to help us to reach the station of rida. Ameen. If there are any questions quickly before the adhan.
Is there a specific dua for helping us to reach the station of the bar?
Not as far as I know. Well, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-ridha ba'da al-qada. I asked you for ridha after your decree. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.